3 books changed my life more than any amount of school ever taught me. I went from being broke and aimless to taking control of my life, building wealth, and owning multiple companies. Over the last several years, I've read dozens and dozens of books, but only a few of them have really stood out and changed how I operate on a day-to-day basis. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 of them and share how they've helped me change my life. I want to start with one of the first books I ever read when I was about 16 years old. It's The Richest Man in Babylon. This book is basically a parable. It's told like a story of a man that lived thousands of years ago in the ancient city of Babylon. And it gives basically some stories and some vignettes about money. And ultimately, I've condensed down just a few of the key points that I learned from this book and how it's had such a tremendous impact on me. I'd say if I had to really just kind of condense it down to one thing, arguably the most important thing I learned is just to accumulate capital. The average person goes throughout life and they'll get a direct deposit and they'll get, oh, I made $1,000 this week. And they just naturally just kind of think to themselves, perhaps even subconsciously, I have $1,000 to spend. I've met so many people like that. They live paycheck to paycheck. It is unbelievable how if you look at the statistics in the United States, even people who make 100, 200, 300 grand a year live paycheck to paycheck. It is absurd. People live not even at their means, they live above their means. That's also a reason why people have so much credit card debt. The whole point of this book, basically through stories, teaches you that you have to live below your means. If your income level is here, your spend level needs to be down here. And that difference, that margin between what you earn and what you spend, you need to then take that money and invest it. And you take that money and you invest it into opportunities that create you more money. So then as the time goes on, as the years go on, you earn even more and more and more, and you have more to invest, and you basically snowball and compound your wealth over time. But again, I was 16 years old when I read this, and so it completely shifted, thank God, at a very early age, my views of money. One of the ideas that they use in this book is they say to make money your slave. And I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. You're either a slave to your money, or your money's a slave to you. If you have your money just sitting idle in a bank account or underneath a mattress or something, it's actually going to dwindle. It's going to succumb to inflation and your purchasing power is going to drop. You have to deploy your capital. You have to save as much money. Again, that's going back to what I just said. You want to live below your means so you could accumulate capital, but you don't want to just sit there. You don't want to just sit in your purse or your bank account. You want to deploy it. You want to invest it. You want your money to make babies. Every dollar that you have should have a mission. Now, I'm not a big fan of Dave Ramsey, but he has a good saying. He has a budgeting app called Every Dollar, because every dollar should have a task assigned to it. It's either, spent on taxes or rent or bills, or it's tasked to go to your savings or to an investment. There should be a purpose for every dollar you have. Now, in my particular case, and I've made some videos on my channel, I'll link to them, I focus on buying productive assets that could produce something for me. So for example, if I had an extra 10 grand, am I going to put it in cryptocurrency? Hell no, I never would. Now, obviously, aside from the fact that it's volatile, you're speculating because that cryptocurrency doesn't produce anything. I'd rather take that money and use it as a down payment on a house and rent it out and have rental income come in. Now I'm making more money. Now I have my salary plus that rental income. I could save up another 10 grand even quicker. Use that to, put down on another house. If you get the idea, you're snowballing. So I like to take opportunities that are productive, whether in my particular case now my focus is on buying companies and buying businesses. But whatever that may be, live below your means, keep that margin as much as possible, live like a broke college student while your income's up here, and take that margin, accumulate it, save it, but ultimately deploy it into productive assets and investments that are ultimately going to generate a return for you and increase your income even more. Another thing I also like to mention, Warren Buffett would say the first rule of investment is don't lose, and the second rule is don't forget number 1. If you lose 50% of your money, you need a 100% gain to gain that back. So you want to be very particular. No, there's no such thing as no risk. All of business, all of life, it's just management of risk, not elimination of risk. But you have to be very particular about where you're going to put your money in. If you're on a subway and some guy's just talking about some new cryptocurrency, or I had a colleague of mine call me recently and chanting about something called RXP. I've never heard of it before, but apparently it's a cryptocurrency or something. I don't even know. I don't pay attention to this stuff because first of all, it's not within my circle of competence. I'm not very familiar with it. And to me, it just violates my own rules because that's not investing, that's speculation. So if you want to be very particular and very smart about where you put your money, the most foolproof, basic thing you could do is just put your money in an S&P 500 index fund and just slap it in there and let it compound for 10, 20, 30 years. that is just at a minimum. If you're going to do anything, I would do that, because that allows you to basically buy a slice of America. And especially, it's a temperamental quality that you need to maintain in investing. That's not an intellectual quality. You need to be comfortable seeing those valuations go down and continuing to buy a slice of America. You will go wrong betting against America, but you'll never go wrong if you invest in the long term. And again, Warren Buffett would say, if you buy things for far below what they're worth, and you buy a group of them, you basically don't lose money. So if you find if the country goes into a recession or the stock market crashes, you should actually look at it like you could get these investments at a discount. Most people think they're losing money. The way I look at it is like, shit, I could buy the same investment for cheaper. I just got a discount. I put even more of my money into an S&P 500 index fund and let that scale and grow. Again, that's super basic advice, and the whole point of this video is not necessarily to get into financial advice, but the whole point of this premise of this book is just to be smart with your money, accumulate your cash, invest it, make money your slave, and really hedge against putting your money in really speculative areas. And again, it changed my life like crazy, because I was 16 years old when I started reading this. That completely changed my behavior. I was a very fiscally responsible teenager. I didn't spend money. I would bitch if I had to spend money. I remember going with some friends of mine to a rec center, and I was arguing with the lady. I didn't want to pay the $3 entrance fee because I was just there to hang out with my friends. I wasn't going to work out like they were. And again, I became very close to my money, and I highly recommend it, because again, you have no choice. You have to save as much money as you can. The gap between the rich and the poor is only going to increase. It's only going to get more difficult in the future. I mean, you have to give yourself the opportunity to succeed, and you can't do that if you're spending more than you make. You just can't. The second book that changed my life is Deep Work by Cal Newport. I did not expect this book to have such an impact on my life like it actually did. And again, the basic premise of this book is to cut out all of the noise and focus on the signal. And the beginning of the book gives a ton of research and a ton of data to basically back the fact that the people that earn the most money in society nowadays are people that are very specialized in what they do. They're very focused at what they do, and they're very niche in what they do, and they're able to perform at a very high level. It's not a generalist that makes a ton of money. It's a specialized knowledge worker. Those are the people that make the most. If you take a look at people like Alex Hormozi or Grant Cardone or all these people that are on YouTube, they have their niches carved out for them. They're very specific. You go to Alex Hormozi if you want to learn how to grow or scale your business. You go to Grant Cardone if you want to learn how to do multifamily real estate deals. They're people that have focused on one kind of niche, and they do it really well. And they don't distract themselves with busy work, with idle work. They're able to delegate out things that are not important to them, and they're able to really focus on the work that moves the needle forward. And this book talks a lot about the nuance and the granularity about how you could really focus in a very distracted world. You have social media, emails, text messages. I mean, you have everybody. The new currency nowadays is attention. Even this video, right? I'm vying for your attention to watch it. That is such a valuable and rare commodity now that even your own attention is fragmented, especially with the advent of TikTok and short form video. People's attentions are just completely fragmented. And so being able to actually lock into your work and focus for 90 minutes, 2 hours, 4 hours, and just go deep in the work that actually moves the needle forward, and not crap like meetings or emails or whatever that may be, which you might think you're being productive, but it's not the stuff that moves the needle forward. After reading this book, I actually made some pretty big changes. So for example, on my phone is always in a focus mode. When I wake up, it has a gym focus on that changes my lock screen on my phone to show my workout plan. After I'm done with my gym, it automatically at around 7 a.m. changes to work mode. And it stays from work mode from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Then from there, it changes over to sleep focus. Nobody can get through to me during that time. My phone never could ring and ding with a notification. The only way I know I have a notification on my phone is if I go out of my way to check. On top of that, almost no applications on my phone have notifications turned on. None. Emails, none. But only text messages and phone calls. That's it. No other apps on my phone, not even my banking apps, nothing like that. They cannot send me notifications. But the average person, if you look at their phone, they got 100 notifications just sitting there. All these different applications trying to vie for your attention. And they've even done studies where I could be focused on my work. I'm on my laptop, I'm focused on some project. And if my phone dings, even if I just look at it for just a few seconds and I see a notification and I go back to my phone, they've done science and know there's still some residue of your attention focused on that notification. your focus has been broken. There's a reason Hormozi talks about how he works in an office with no windows. He puts earplugs in and then he puts headphones on top of that. And he puts his phone in another room. He doesn't want to distract himself because he knows any sort of distraction is just enough to completely shatter your productivity. And so how do I apply that to my life? Obviously the things I just told you, but for example, I buy companies for a living. The highest and best use of my time that moves the needle forward is, for example, cold calling, which is mind-numbing. Nobody likes cold calling, but that's where I get the best deals. I get off-market business opportunities. Or, I might talk to brokers here and there, but the thing that really moves the needle forward is cold calling. I have to do that undistracted. I have to do that before anything else in the morning. I have to be able to lock myself in a room for 2, 3, 4 hours and have no distractions, because I know for myself, if I get any sort of distraction, if I have a television on in the background, if I get a ding from a notification from any random app, it completely takes my focus and I'm not productive anymore. So I highly recommend everybody take a read. It will completely change your mind and your whole mindset as far as your work, what you're focused on, and ultimately how you actually go about getting deep work in. Super important. And the last book that really changed my life, Good to Great by Jim Collins. Arguably the best business book I have ever read anywhere. Now, I've already made a video on this channel about Good to Great, but this taught me one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned and then ultimately had validated throughout my career. But business all just comes down to people. That is 90% of the equation. It comes down to people. In the book, they use this story about the analogy of the bus. And they say a lot of people are focused on where the bus is going. But he said great companies, great organizations focus first who's on the bus. They say who's on the bus is infinitely more important than where the bus is going. Because once you get the right people on the bus, and corollary to that is the wrong people off of the bus, you'll be able to figure everything out. And so if I look at my life, I'm 24 years old. I own a few businesses. The only reason I was able to get to this point was because I've been able to surround myself with incredible people who knew their business well. I own a plumbing company. I know nothing about plumbing. I've never picked up a wrench before in my life. I'm being a bit facetious there, but it's not my background. But I've been able to recruit people. I've been able to get business partners that do know that business like the back of their hand. If all goes to plan, I should be buying an air conditioning company here very soon. I know nothing about air conditioning. I'm not an HVAC tech. But I've been able to recruit people that do know HVAC, and I've been able to leverage their capabilities. Let's go back in time a bit. I own an assisted living facility. I'm not a healthcare person. I don't know anything about healthcare. I don't know how to take care of seniors. But again, common theme. I built a team first before I did anything. Now from there, I'm able to leverage off the experience and the knowledge of that team I built. And if I look across business, the biggest companies, the highest performing companies, are the companies that have such strict requirements on the people in their business. Best case is look at Amazon. The requirements, the threshold to just get into Amazon in a management role and be promoted and to move up in the organization, it's unbelievable. I think it's something to the effect of you have to work 70 hours a week just to keep your job, 75 hours a week to be considered for a promotion, and like 80 hours a week to get a promotion in top level management. It's insane. And they have this concept, Steve Jobs used to talk about it. A players only want to work with other A players. They don't even tolerate B or C players. This book has had such a tremendous impact because it's allowed me to take a look inwards in my life and look not just in business, but even personal. Who am I surrounded with? I have cut 99% of people out of my life. There's only about 2 people that actively play a role in my life on a day-to-day basis. Only 2. And I meet a ton of people. I have employees that work for me. I'm constantly talking to people that reach out to me via YouTube. But even then, the people that I actually regularly associate with, it's only about 2 people. I keep a very tight group because you are who you associate with, whether you like it or not. Doesn't matter if they're family, doesn't matter if they're friends, doesn't matter if they're coworkers, you are who you associate with. And so being able to take the opportunity to be ruthless about who you let in your life is extremely important. Another thing I learned in this book is once you get the right people, you have to align everybody with the mission. And he uses this thing called the hedgehog concept. And it's this idea of the hedgehog versus the fox. The fox always has a million ideas. It's a cunning animal. It's very smart, and it's always thinking about all the different ways it could catch the hedgehog. But the hedgehog has one simple idea. Whenever the fox tries to attack, it balls itself up and uses its thorns to protect itself. And they use that analogy to basically get the message across that the most focused teams, the most focused people achieve more. And to use another analogy, and I like to use stories and analogies because that's how people learn. If you take a flashlight, one of those flashlights that you can screw the tip, and if you have a very broad light, that light doesn't go very far. But the more you screw that light in and you condense and concentrate that light, you travel further. And a step beyond that is a laser pointer. A laser pointer, very focused light. It looks like it could travel for miles. And so again, getting the right people in your life and then getting very focused about one core mission, one core idea. And then ultimately another concept it talks about is getting the flywheel. Once you have that one core idea and you start working towards it, picture a flywheel. It takes a lot of effort in the beginning to get that ball rolling. But the harder you push, the more time you put into it, the more dedicated you are, that flywheel starts to move under its own weight. And that's where you really just get these unbelievable breakthrough moments where you have the right team, the right mission, focused mission, and then that flywheel, that momentum, that critical mass that keeps rolling. I mean, it's had such an impact, at least on my life and my business. I'm very focused now. I used to be in a position several years ago where I always kind of had these different business ideas. I wanted to do this or I wanted to do that. I was chasing the woman in the red dress, metaphorically speaking. But now my life is very simple. I have a very condensed goal. I personally want to build a $50 million home service business. So think of the trades, HVAC, electrical, plumbing. And if anybody comes to me with an opportunity and they want me to do something else, it's a no. If it doesn't align with my goal, it's a no. Now I'm happy to advise people and happy to help other people with their missions. But as far as the work that I do, it's YouTube and it's growing my company. That's it. Super focused, and I have very particular people in my life who are able to help amplify my goals, not detract them. These were some of the 3 books that have had the biggest impact on my life. I understand that these are pretty particular books. They're not probably what you would normally see when people make a video of this type. But obviously I'm a very business focused person, and the people that are watching my videos typically are into business. These books have had a tremendous impact on my life. Again, this is my personal favorite. But give it a shot. And if you have any questions, if anybody has any particular videos that they want me to make, I am accessible. Feel free to reach out. If you're serious about business and you are serious about wanting to learn and grow, for a few select people, I would be willing to help you out and actually potentially partner with you or run your ideas by you. I've had a number of people reach out, and it's always appreciated when that happens. And if you want to watch any more videos like this, feel free to click here. I'll see you in the next one.